Good morning, Chodesh Tov. We don't hear anything. We don't see anything.
Thank you.
Everything's all right.
Yeah, okay. Thank you. Okay, Chav Chesed with base by the Mishnah. Ish Nazir has been over Nazir. So the Gemara is going to talk about where this comes from, but a new issue that a man can make his son a Nazir. It's talking about a son who's a katan, and the father can accept Nazirus for the son, and the son will become a Nazir. That's what it seems to say. Ish Nazir has been over Nazir. That a man can make his son a Nazir. He has the right to make his son a Nazir. Again, it's talking about a katan. The son is not yet bar mitzvah. We'll see more about that exactly bar mitzvah. We'll see.
He has no say in the matter.
Who? Oh, it says right away. We're going to see right away that he does have a say. But if he doesn't say, so he seems to be a Nazir and have all the lachas of a Nazir. Also, Kabbanis, we'll see the issue. Ain't Isha Madaris has been of a Nazir, woman cannot. The mother cannot make her son a Nazir, the father could. It says the word Ketzad, and they take out the word Ketzad because it's not going to say Ketzad. But it's going to say now, it's going to say that if the son or relatives disagree, so then it gets absolved. Then it just melts away. The father can make the son as Nazir as long as nobody complains. But if the son complains or the relatives complain even, so then it's not a Nazirus. If you took a haircut, that means he doesn't want to be a Nazir. I guess if he drank wine also, or went to the basic forest, I guess all these things. So, or if the relatives, they didn't think that he should be a Nazir. They disagreed with the father. So it takes off the Nazirus. Or Micha or Shemini Kukrova. And the first explained even if he didn't do an act, he didn't actually take a haircut. He just said, I don't want. The boy said, I don't want. Or the relative said that they don't want. So the halach is that it gets canceled. The Mishnah really could say that it gets canceled, but it goes on to tell you, what do you do about this canceled Nazirus? Which now we're familiar with canceled Nazirus. We had canceled Nazirus by the husband. The husband is made for his wife's Nazirus, also is canceled. And this seems to be the same thing. The rest of the Mishnah is going to be familiar. What do you do by a Nazirus which started and got canceled? Before we had a case of Hafara, and now we have a case of father who made his son a Nazir. Also, the son could cancel it by just saying, I don't want.
For Menader. Menader, he makes him to promise. It says the Lashon is Madir, which is to make promise.
That's the way you become a Nazir.
Right, but the kid doesn't do it if he doesn't.
The word Madir means that the father made the promise. The father said that you are a Nazir. So he has the right, he has authority to make him son a Nazir unless the son protests. Also, it says the relatives also. It doesn't say which kind of relative, how close does relative have to be. It could be that it's just, we'll see that it could be that it's not a certain kind of a relative. But we'll see the Gemara, we'll get smarter. But the way the Mishnah says it is that if he or the relatives protest, either by act or by word, so it becomes canceled. And the rest of the Mishnah is going to be a repeat, exact repeat copy of what we spoke about. What do you do by canceled Nazirus of a husband that canceled his wife's Nazirus? Now we're going to talk about that the son canceled his father's Nazirus, that he became a Nazir. Also, what do you do with the animals? If you had animals that were already designated, what do you do with this canceled Nazirus? They were sanctified as animal, as karbanis, and now it's canceled. What do you do? So it goes through the same thing word for word. If he had animals that were already designated, one for chatas, one for an old, one for a shlamim, then it got canceled. Achatas Thomas, the korban chatas we let to die. Ola tikar ola. The oldest word is a korban ola. Or shlamim, you korban shlamim, and the chol yomechad ve'enan tuna lechem. The shlamim, you do bring as a shlamim, but it's going to have the chumrah to only eat it within 1 day, and not like a regular shlamim, which is 2 days, and it doesn't have the bread like a korban shlamim of a nazir. It's like a regular shlamim. And but if you had money, so it depends if it was stumin or mufrashim. If he had money set aside for these karbanis, but he didn't specify which monies are which, so then all the money goes for an adava, which means nidvas sibur. That's the kais hamizbeach. And if he had money, if he had monies that were designated specifically for ola, chatas, shlamim, so each one you do with it what it's supposed to be done. The money that's going to go for the chatas goes to the melech, the same way the animal would have been tamus. So the money goes to the Yamam Melech. That's the way you kill the money. Lonan v'lam olin. So we said since it's not omer to bring a korban, so there's no milah with the raisa, but mirabanan there is. The me'ola yaviu ola ma'olin behen. The money that's supposed to be for the korban ola, you do bring a korban ola, and that money is going to be milah because it's destined to bring a korban from it. That's regular milah. And the mei shlamim yaviu shlamim, of course, it's not going to be milah because there's no milah on the shlamim. But this shlamim is unique. On one hand, we make it like that of a Nazir, which is only eaten for 1 day, not for 2 days, but ain't to Lachem because it's not really a Nazir. So all this we had already before. This was what to do with a cancel Nazirus. The main issue that's a chiddush to us is that there is such a thing that a father can make his son a Nazir and a woman cannot. The whole thing that a father, the chiddush is that the father can. And if the father can, why can the woman not? So it becomes a Nazirus unless canceled. Who could cancel it? The son himself could cancel it, or even relatives also. I guess the mother also could tell her son, also she's also a relative. So they all could cancel it, but if they don't, then it goes on to be Nazirus. The Meforshim say that they bring down a Tosefta that they only could cancel and protest only right away. As soon as they hear about it, then the son could say I don't want, or he could take a haircut. But if they first accepted it, so then they can't cancel it later on. They only can cancel it right away. This brings down such a Tosefta. He talks about maybe Gemara might, maybe others argue. He says over here Tosefta Katani Behedya. Where does it say that? The V'davka here it says V'davka Shemichu Miyad Kisheshamu Aval Im Lo Michu B'shuv Liyam Michu Em B'Kachlum Achrei Shes Chalan Nazirus.
We didn't speak about Shalom Aleichem Rebbe in terms of time.
It doesn't seem that has to be. We're not talking about that. We're not saying that it has to be totally. It does be totally. It means when they heard about it, that they didn't accept it. Okay, so the more wants to know what is it all about? One?
Yeah, that sounds like a Biyom Shomo.
It's less than Biyom.
It could be that they're thinking about it. It's also as long as they're thinking about it, it's not falling accepting. It's that they started.
He's saying it's not
What the guy did.
He's saying it's not 24 hours. It's a din when they finish. They're finished considering it.
I think so, but no proof. That's saying what I think. I don't know for sure. Okay, the Gemara starts. What's it all about? What is this thing that a father can make his son a Nazir? Ish in Avli Shalom. My time. The Gemara sounds like the kasha is what's if it's a man and a woman, but the kasha is really what is it about a man? And what is it? What is this thing? What is this invention that a man can make his son a Nazir? And also, if you tell me why, then tell me why woman not. The main point is to ask what is this thing? What is this?
I'm sorry to say this, but man is Baal Karyag Mitzvah and a woman is not.
What does that have to do with the father making his Nazir a son?
Because what does she know about? I mean,
why can put it this way? Why could a father make a Nazir a son? That's the main question. Why woman? That's not the main point. The main point is why. Who said chinuch? You said a big thing already. You said no. You said chinuch. You said something. You're taking sides. Davar Godol, the he said a big thing. No. It's good. It's good. But he's taking no. But it's not like what's the question? It's a question. He's saying an answer. He said what he just said. He said the whole thing is Rabbanan. He said the whole thing is chinuch. It's not real. He said a big thing. The Gemara is going to have 7 kashas on you. No, but it's good. No, it's good. You're doing good. You're doing good. You took Rish Lakish's opinion. So here goes. Again,
the what? Why the father, not the mother?
Yeah, I would. If it's okay, I'm doing this without permission. That this is in parentheses. My time. Where does it come from? It is true. Why a man? Yes. Why a woman not? But that's not the kasha. The kasha really is. What is this? And once you tell me what it is, tell me why a woman not. But that's like a side point. The main point is my timer. Where did you get it from? Where do you get this thing that a man can make his son a Nazir? What is it? This creation that his father can make his son into a Nazir. Again, the son is a katan. So it's a lachol mashmesina that the father has such a thing.
Yeah. Was it? How can a katan be mekabel and so?
The father made his son a Nazir. Start again.
I'm saying the son is a katan less than 12.
Less than 12.
Not bar mitzvah.
Yeah.
I think the son is.
The father won't give him haircuts.
Yeah, but how can
the father won't give him haircuts and he won't give him one.
Because Shimshon.
Okay.
Well, I'll ask a different way.
It's strange to me because he's not a Baal Chiyuv on mitzvahs. So why is he a Baal Chiyuv on the Dorg?
The father made him a Nazir.
I understand, but surely that I was sure it was over by mitzvah.
We started. The first thing we said was it's katan. The first thing we said is we started.
Can I ask? I want to ask Chaim David. Maybe he didn't mean to ask. If he didn't mean to ask, I'll ask it my way. Is it correct to make this son Nazir?
So we'll see. From the Gemara, everything's going to blossom out. Is it a good thing that a person should be a Nazir himself?
So that here, yeah, but over here, it's like I think it's a little strict on the kid. It's a little.
No, have a good time. They give for trips. What bothers the wine bothers him. The cemetery bothers him.
The haircut is gonna be strange in the class. You know,
30
try and
days.
make the class not the kid
30
not.
days.
Huh?
30 days, 30 days. That's not, that's not to be 7 years.
Fine, take it back.
I don't know.
I take
Okay,
it
if Yochanan says Allah, with that, if there are considerations, there are considerations.
back. Okay, fine.
Rabbi Yochanan Malachi ben Nazir Allah Moshe Messinai, the father's jurisdiction to make his son a Nazir is Allah Moshe Messinai. Rabbi Yossi Rabbi Chanina Amar Resh Lakish. It's just chinuch. So huge machlokes. Is it the rice or the rabbanon? Kedei l'chanchol mitzvah sounds like it's a positive thing. And even though we had Gemaras that says it's not a good thing to become a Nazir, our Gemara doesn't seem to hold like that. Our Gemara holds like the Pashut on the pasuk that it's a kadosh. It's a good thing. Says mechanech his son to be a kadosh. That's the machlokes. The Gemara is going to go on now. 7 kashas. I just highlighted it. The pink kashas.
Is the rice?
What? No, chinuch is rabbanon. Chinuch is rabbanon. And the Gemara is saying according to Shlokish it's only chinuch. So this whole mission is only rabbanon. And there's going to be 7 kashas for 7 terutzim as we go along. The first kasha is Yachi Afilu Ishanami. A woman also, if he holds everything is going to be against Rish Lakish. 7 kashas. The answer according to Rabbi Yochanan is going to be as Allah Moshe Messinai, everything's fine. If it's Allah Moshe Messinai, no kashas. But if it's rabbanon, we have a lot of kashas. The first kasha is why could the mother not make if this chinuch? So the mother also should be mechanech her son. The answer is because ish chayev l'chanech b'no b'mitzvahs. There's no such thing in any kind of chinuch for a woman to be mechanech her son. That's a question. Question in the postscript, even a machlokes halacha, is a woman chayev chinuch. Of course, there's different kinds of chinuch. Different kinds of chinuch. One is everything the mother does for her son. That's for her children. That's surely you need. But the mitzvah aspect is it the mother's responsibility to make sure that the son does mitzvahs. So Rish Lakish says not. If a woman's chayav to be
What do you do then?
so I'm saying that's not what we're talking about. The Torah Simecha is not going to be the bench to do brechs and wasn't. Torah Simecha is going to be to wipe your nose and to put away your socks and be a mensch. And that's the Torah Simecha. They're cheres. That's what it says.
And now you need to be told that. I mean, you don't have. Without a mitzvah.
I'm just saying nice. The Maral says Torah Simecha is Derech Eretz. Derech Eretz means what we know without Torah. What the Seichel Anoshi, what the common sense tells us is right. That Hashem told us not by Har Sinai. Hashem told us by Ma'aser Bereishis. That Hashem gave into us a consciousness of right and wrong. That's the Torah Simecha. That the mother's chayim. That's the mother's chayim. The mother wants to do it. That's their natural being, that she wants the children to go to be a mensch. But now talking about a mensch is not as a goy, as a Jewish mensch. But and now the technical mitzvahs of taking a lulav, taking saying berachas hamazon, that's not maybe her obligation. That's the father's obligation. Do we pass like this? Machlokes. But that's the first question on Rish Lakish. Why is the mother not doesn't have jurisdiction to make her son a Nazir? Because she's not chayav chinuch. The whole thing is chinuch, and she's not chayav chinuch. Next question. That it says in the Mishnah only about making a son a Nazir. How about making a daughter a Nazira? Why is the father doesn't have jurisdiction for that? If you say Amtu is because Amtu Lachi goes together. Therefore, how are you going to take each word? I'm not sure. Amtu Lachi. Because of that. That's why the son, yes, and the daughter not. There's no jurisdiction to this father to make the daughter a Nazir because that's the Lacha Moshe Messinai. You don't have to ask any kashas. El Rish Lakish, if you're saying that it's chinuch, so it's chinuch for a daughter also. Afilu bito, also there should be chinuch. The answer is kasaba b'no chayv l'chancha, bito ein chayv l'chancha. There's no chiyuv chinuch on a daughter. The chiyuv chinuch for mitzvahs, of course, against to make her into a mensch, of course, make her into a mensch. But mitzvahs, there's no chiyuv for the father, even for the father, to educate the daughter to get ready to do mitzvahs. So there's no reason that he has to be. So they didn't give him this chinuch to make her into a Nazira. That was kasha number 2. We pass like this. I didn't see they talk about it. The father of the is chayiv in chinuch. We might pass like not like Rish Lakish. But Rish Lakish is going to say that there's no chiyuv to be mechanech a daughter in mitzvahs. Yes.
No, this is
It's good. Third kasha. Bishlam le Rabbi Yochanan. Where do we go?
Always the kasha is coming from Rabbi Yochanan. That's what.
Everything is against Rish Lakish. Everything saying Rish Yochanan is good. If you say Allah Moshe Messinai, everything's fine. According to Rish Lakish, we have kashas. Bishlam le Rabbi Yochanan dama alachi benazir ahachi like Amtu Lachi. Therefore, the Nazir is in the Dharma level. We're fine that a father could make his son Nidorim besides Naziris. Only Naziris that says such a thing. But you don't say other than the dome that the father could say a different kind of a neder. Why not? Also, if you find the cases of making other kinds of mitzvahs for a son to make a neder to do some kind of mitzvahs, like the Rosh says, the Dorm Sak, the Precious, the Mishnah and Avos, that it's a good thing to make a neder in order to abstain from things that you mutter. So also the father should educate the son by making a neder for him. The answer is he could do that also. The Mishnah means even, it's a chiddush, even is zeros. When it wants to tell you this new authority that the father has to make his son Nedorim, it picks the most extreme one to become a Nazir. The Nazir is more extreme than regular Nedorim. Let me buy even Nedorim, they're less like evil. Allah filu when Nazir is the Islam evil, afilu wachi chayv l'chancho. He has the chayv l'chancho, but he has the jurisdiction and the authority to make his son a Nazir, even though there's evil. We said evil means that he's not drinking wine, and it might be something which is difficult. Still, the father has jurisdiction for that. But surely he has jurisdiction to make a neder that the son should be chayv to do something which is positive for him. Next kasha.
I didn't. It seems like this was the same as the last.
Yeah, that's not getting confused.
I'm not following.
This is higher l'chincha.
I'm not following.
What is the what is it? Was Reish Lakish's answer?
That Nedorim you also can. The kasha was Nedorim Nami. The answer is yes, Nedorim also. The kasha was that it's mashman. The Mishnah only gave an example of Nazirus. So Rabbi Yochanan says that this jurisdiction is only by Nazirus, not by Nedorim. And according to Reish Lakish, it should be Nedorim also. And he answers yes, it's Nedorim also. I'm just telling you a chiddush, even Nedorim. Even Nedorim, not only Nedorim, even Nedorim. The next kasha, Bishlam Rabbi Yochanan. It's good?
Even does.
Even as I'm sorry. Bishlam Rabbi Yochanan, Dama Allah Ibn Nazir, Hani Ditani Micha, O Shemichu Proba, El Rabbi Yossi, Rabbi Yochanina, Amr Shlakish, Kol Kimineon Krobim, Damrin Le, Lo Sigma Rei Mitzvahs. What's it the business of the relatives to stop him? If he says Allah Moshe Messina, okay, Allah Moshe Messina, that the relatives can stop. But if it's chinuch, so what business do the relatives saying don't do chinuch? The father says it's a chinuch, and then the relatives say that they don't want it. What's their business? How could they come in and mix into the chinuch of the father? Why should the chachamim say that the relatives could stop this chinuch? The answer is kasava kol chinuch the lo chashiv lo nichalei. That a chinuch which is not considered good by other people, he doesn't want. Who does it mean? Who doesn't want? Lo nichalei. I would have thought it means the father doesn't want. The father only wants it if the relatives agree. If people think it's not a good thing, he doesn't want that kind of a chinuch. But the Mephoshim say means the son, that the son doesn't want it. The son doesn't want it, the people are not happy with it. So if the relatives say we don't want it, so it's like the son saying that he doesn't want it. We understand that the son can protest, that even though it's chinuch, the one doesn't ask the kasha, how could the son protest according to Reish Lakish? That's understood that if the father made this kind of chinuch, but it's not mamash a mitzvah, so the son can say I don't want. Yeah, that the Gemara doesn't have a problem with. But who are the relatives to mix in? So the Gemara says that the relatives, if they don't want it, so the son doesn't want it either. He wants something that's ma'ur ben abriyos, the people don't like it, people think that it's good. But if the relatives don't, according to the situation, the relatives don't think it's a good thing, he doesn't want to do it. And since he doesn't want to do it, he goes back to the regular din that the son himself could protest. Next question. The problem is that every time that a Nazir has to shave his head, after the whole Nazirus is over, the tiglachas, which we spoke about a couple of times, he has to cut off all of his hair. He cuts all of his on his head. The beard, the rest of the body, no. But on the head, he has to cut off all of his hair. That includes the payas also. So that's it's a clashing with the mitzvah, with the issa. That you're not allowed to be makal. So by regular Nazir, if it's a real Nazir, so that's what the Torah says. The Torah says that this mitzvah overrides the mitzvah of payas, the issa of payas. But according to Reish Lakish, it's only a chinuch. So on one hand, the father's gonna shave the son's head after he finishes the Nazirus, and with the Raya, you're not allowed to. It could be a real Nazir. What?
Also the makif.
The makif is the one who gets the issa. The nikif is only maybe if he does a mice or something like that, if he's tilts his head. But the one who is cutting the hair is the makif is the barber.
The barber is not makif.
It's not supposed to be makif. Makif means don't cut off the payas. Don't make it round in a way that you cut off the edges. So that's the issa to take your haircut and cut off the payas. So when a person is a Nazir, he does the glachas, he's cutting off his payas. That's what a Nazir does. He has to shave his head with a razor. Yeah.
And it's a man says.
What?
And that's a mitzvah.
That's a mitzvah. That's what the Nazir does. It's to grow back. But that haircut is a haircut that's against the Allah payas. And the Torah says this overrides. Like we have a lot of times mitzvahs that one overrides the other. But according to Rish Lakish, it's not a real mitzvah. The kid is not a real Nazir. So how is the father allowed to shave the kid's head after the Nazirus? It's not a real Nazirus. So he's doing payas without the real, he's cutting the payas without the mitzvah of Nazirus. The answer is that even by a regular person, it's only us to cut the payas and leave the rest of the hair. But if he cuts all the hair, that's only Issa Drabanan. The Issa the rice is only if he cuts the payas, but he leaves the rest of the hair. But if he cuts all the hair, including the payas, it's not Issa the rice. So it's only talking about the Rabbanan already. So then the Rabbanan could say that we allow to do this Nazirus Rabbanan. They invented the Nazirus Rabbanan, and the whole Issa of payas is only Rabbanan. So they could make it override. If it will be a deraisa Issa HaKafa, so then the Rabbanan couldn't override the deraisa. But the HaKafa is also the Rabbanan only. So therefore, the Rabbanan could override the Rabbanan. The Chinuch for Rabbanan, and the Chinuch is also the Rabbanan. As the Chinuch the Rabbanan, V'dachi HaKafa the Rabbanan. Why answer that kasha also? Next kasha. Bishlam Rav Yochanan Dam Alachi B'Nazir Hachi Megalech U'Maisi Korban. No problem to bring the Korbanos. At the end, it's a real Nazirus, and the son didn't protest, nobody protested, he went through the Nazirus. Now he brings Korbanos. It's real Korbanos because Allah Moshe Messina that there's such a thing. Ella Rav Yosef Chanina Amresh Lakish that says that it's only Kedei L'cham Chol Mitzvahs Hakamaisi Chulin Lazara. He's bringing the Korbanos, not real Korbanos, and you're not allowed to shech Chulin and Lazara, and you're not allowed to eat the Korbanos. That's going to be Chulin Bazara. There's going to be over there Chatas and the Shlom. The old is old. That's also Chulin Bazara. But the Chatas and the Shlom, besides also doing the korban, also eating it is also Aser. So how could you make a fake korban? It's not a real korban. The answer is because Chulin Bazara love the Raisa. That is only Yisad Rabbanan. So again, since only Yisad Rabbanan, so they can invent this kind of this Nazirus Rabbanan, and then you'd be allowed to be in the Rabbanas. And even though it's not a Chulin, it's really Chulin. The Gemara is not saying that it's a korban Rabbanan. No such thing as a korban Rabbanan. It's really Chulin. But the Isser to shech Chulin or to eat Chulin Bazar that was shechted in the Azar is only Rabbanan, and therefore the new invention of Nazirus Rabbanan could bring korbanos that are not real korbanos, and no problem. It's not really a korban. You act as if it's a korban. It's not really a korban. Next kasha. I think this is the last kasha. This is the last kasha. I think according to the number is going to be number 7. What's the din if the boy becomes tummy? So he has a din of all of the regular Nazir tummy. What korbanos does he bring? 2 birds and a
Pizza. No, what are we talking about?
Asham. Kevis Lasham.
Kevis.
He brings 2 birds, a chatas and all 2 birds, and he brings the Asham, but usually the Asham is an aisle, but here the Asham is a kevis. And he brings those korbanos. But there's another problem. Besides Chulin Bazara, there's another problem by the birds. Because by the birds, when you usually shech the bird, so you shech, you do shchita on a bird. But when you do kachim in the Beis HaMikdash, the birds don't have shchita, they have malika. Malika means that the Kohen does it with his nail, and it's from the back of the head. It's not by the neck. It's by the and the mimula. So that is considered nevela. That's not a good shchita. If it's kachim, so that's the way you're supposed to slaughter kachim with malika. So that's allowed to eat it. But if it's not a real malika, if it's not a real korban, so it's chulin. And even though you're going to take away the problem of chulin bazara, but it's nevela because malika chulin is nevela. So how could Rish Lakish say that if the boy becomes tamei, he tells him to bring the korbanos of tumah, which include also the birds, and the Kohen's going to eat it. The only you don't eat, but the chatas, or if you do eat, and it's malika chulin is nevela. So how could Rish Lakish say to make an invention of a korban tumah of chatas ha'of that's a drabanan means with the rice that's nothing, but the rice that's really chulin and it's malika, and the Kohen's going to eat it. The answer is this is what kasha still. The Kohen's going to eat the vela if he eats it. I would have thought the Gemara was going to answer don't eat it. The Gemara doesn't think. The Gemara thinks that it's regular. You act as if it's regular Nazirus, and the Kohen's going to eat the chatas ha'of, so it's nevela with the rice. So how can he not eat it? The answer is Kasav Rav Yosef, mamish amazing. Kasav Rav Yosef Rav Yehuda, the Amar ein shchita lo'open Torah. That with the rice you don't have to shech the bird. You have to shech the animal and a chaya, but a bird with the rice there's a shita that says you don't have to shech. Only with Rabbanan. He agrees with Rabbanan you do have to shech, and with the Rabbanan it would be the vela. but the rice is not available. The rice is okay as long as you kill the bird, even if you don't do a good shkita, however you do it. Malika is also going to be kosher with the rice, and it's only Yasser Rabbanan, and therefore the Nazirus Rabbanan is going to override the Isan Avelam Rabbanan. Means they're going to say, as far as this case, we're not going to make an Avelam Rabbanan. We'll say that it's a Nazirus, and we'll make it as if it's a real Nazirus, and he's allowed to eat it. Fascinating to that the Gemara to say for a Shlokish Shkram. And Shvus to make this. What do you see about that?
So therefore, if it's so many years ago, when the basic English should not worry about this.
Here they say a little different. So that's the whole time that the Nazirus Rabbanan, they invented a Nazirus Rabbanan. They're not going to usually say that also usually I think when it says it's always going to be with Sorach Avod or something like that. But here, if you say you have to say that there is a Nazirus Rabbanan. They invented a Nazirus Rabbanan. So we could do that. The whole problem of shechting a bird is only Rabbanan. Here we say it's okay. Do Malika, it's also fine. So he has to say all the Chul, and also Chul Mazar love the rice. We said that before, right? That was for the terrace before. That the Chul Mazar is not a problem, and the Neveil is also not a problem. And that's the answer to Rish Lakish. Rish Lakish, in order to get this Mishnah, he has to say these 7 things. He has to say that there's no chinuch for the mother, there's no chinuch for the daughter. You're allowed to do Nadarm also, and the reason why the relatives could protest is because then the son doesn't want it. And you have to say a couple of color roshes drabanan. You have to say chulin bazara is drabanan. You have to say that shchita saof is only drabanan in order to explain our Mishnah with this pshat. Yochanan says that everything's Alachal Moshe Messinai. Down the line, he says that it's real and it's Alachal Moshe Messinai. There's a question with the Gearsos over here. I just read it the way it says in our text, but it says here, Kasava Kav Yossi Rav Yehuda. Who's a basic Rabbi Yehuda? Who's a basic Rabbi Yehuda? That he's the one who says that Shechita open the Torah. It sounds like we know from someplace that the basic Rabbi Yehuda holds like that. And the Gemara is going to ask the kasha now. Is that true? The Sav Rabbi Yossi, Batanya Rabbi Yehuda Omer, as if it's a kasha that the basic Rabbi Yehuda doesn't know like that. Who said anything about the basic Rabbi Yehuda? Why should we say basic Rabbi Yehuda? And if it's not basic Rabbi Yehuda, so it's not basic Rabbi Yehuda. Why do we meshubah to basic Rabbi Yehuda in this sugya? So there might be some light on the Amud Beis. Maybe we'll see something soon. But the original gears, it seems that a lot of Kisvayat had a basic Rabbi Chanina, not the basic Rabbi Yehuda. A basic Rabbi Chanina, who's the one who's saying the whole time the name of Rish Lakish. He was the one. If you go back to the beginning of the sugya, it was Rabbi Yochanan against the basic Rabbi Chanina, Amar Rish Lakish. Rish Lakish is quoted by basic Rabbi Chanina, and many times throughout the Gemara, whenever it said Rish Lakish is difficult, it said Ella. Rabbi Yisrael Rabbi Chanina Amar Shlakish, Ella, Rabbi Yisrael Rabbi Chanina Amar Shlakish, or Ella, Rabbi Yisrael Rabbi Chanina Amar Shlakish, well, attacking Rabbi Yisrael Rabbi Chanina Amar Shlakish. So the Gemara here, instead of saying Shlakish, it says that Kasavar Rabbi Yossi the Rabbi Chanina. That really means to say Shlakish. And the Gemara is going to say, is that true? Does Rabbi Yisrael Rabbi Chanina say that? But there's difficulty in this guest coming up also, Rabbi Yisrael Rabbi Chanina, because he's not a Tana, he's an Amora. I think Moshe is going to say, "Vatanya Rabbi Chanina Omer." There's no such Rabbi Chanina Tana. There's difficulty with the Gesos over here. Is it Rabbi Chanina? Is it Rabbi Yehuda? I'm not sure. But the Gemara goes on to talk about Rabbi Yehuda or somebody, and to say that it's not true. We're saying when you have birds over here, there are 2 problems. Animals is one problem, and birds is 2 problems. Animals is the problem Chulin Bazara. But you do shchita. You do shchita on kachim also. No difference if you're doing it on Chulin or on kachim. You do shchita the regular way. But by a bird, Pulim Bazar Lav the Raisa and no Shchita the Raisa, everything's fine. But the Gemara is going to attack that and say that no, it seems to say that we don't know that both of them is Rabbanan. The Sab Rav Yossi, who says Rav Yossi, Rav Chanina, Rav Yehuda, I'm not sure. But Rav Yehuda Omer, some say Rav Chanina. So the price is going to be pretty long, not so long, but about till the bottom of the page. And the main issue it's talking is going to come to say that is at the end we're going to talk about by birds. Well, that's what we want to get to. By birds is it this point about shchita, lopen, Torah, chulin bazar. The beginning of the price seems to be simple, and the drush is a little bit difficult, and I don't have such clarity. But in general, it says. Let's see. Let's read it and see how we can do. How do you know if there's a chatas of that you're not sure if you have to bring it or not? That's called chata sof habala suffix. Usually, if you have a suffix korban, you can't bring the korban. A suffix korban you can't bring, but chata sof habala suffix, it says over there you do bring it. That if you have a doubt, sometimes there's no problem about being a suffix. Let's say an ola sof. If you're not sure if you're chayiv, so then bring it. You can make a ola sadava, a shlomim. You can make a shlomim if you want. A chatas, if you're not sure if you're chayiv chatas, you can't bring a chatas on suffix because if it's not a chatas, then it's chulin bazara. But chata sof is ba'ala suffix. Chata sof, if you're not sure if you're chayiv chata sof or not, you may bring it because you don't. It doesn't go on the mizbeach. It doesn't. You're not makriv on the mizbeach. You just do hazah on the mizbeach. You just sprinkle the blood on the mizbeach, and then the kohanim eat it. So the kohanim won't eat it. So there's such a thing that chata sof is ba'ala suffix, but you don't eat it. You bring the korban because maybe you chayiv the korban. But you don't eat it because maybe you're not chayving the korban. If you're not chayving the korban, then it'll be malika. It'll be in the vela. So he says, how do you know that?
How do you know
Is
these don't yet?
chatas always brought from Avera? I mean, is it ever brought from Avera? Who brings chatas off? Yoledet, Zorah.
Right, and also it's the part of the Olav Yoreh, the possibility. Does that make a difference if it's the dafka in those cases? If it's
Because the regular chatas, Thomas.
yes, but and so you could talk about Yoledis also. If you have a suffix Yoledis also, it should be in chatas of Allah suffix.
Right.
Also, it doesn't make a difference if it's because of an Avera or not. Whenever you're supposed to bring chatas of and you're not sure, you could bring it and you don't need it. Ola sof if you're not sure, so then make it a tonight in the dava. In case I'm not chayis, I'm making now it should be in the dava. You think you could do that, but chata sof you can make in the dava, but you can make it ala suffix, and you'll do malika. You put the sprinkle the blood on the mizbeach, and you won't give it to the kohen to eat like usually. You'll put it. There was a special compartment by the kevesh, by the ramp on the mizbeach. There was a special compartment that used to put the chata that had to just become puzzle because no one's allowed to eat it. They put it over there. So that's the din of chata sof habala suffix, and the din is ein achelis. They say that both halachos are going to be learned out over here. That you don't eat it, that you do bring it, and you don't eat it. This is the parasha by Mitzvah over there, where it talks about all the kinds of different tumas, and it says the halachas of a zav for a man or a woman, for a male or a female. So, and the shot that they seem to talk about, it doesn't have anything to do with the zav and the zava. I don't know. The drasha seems to be a drasha that's not really. It's not a pasha drasha. It's a drasha we're taking out of context. Magish in the cable is zachar. We're gonna. There's a pasuk that says zachar l'lana keva is comparing a man to a woman. Mazach in the beginning it's going to be pasha. Then we're going to get to a case. The drasha is a bit not regular over here. Not smooth drasha. Mazach maybe korban alavadai. After keva would be a korban alavadai. If someone did a avadai avera, that the chayv korban chatas, then mechal Shabbos. Someone's mechal Shabbos by mistake after being korban chatas. Is there a difference in a man or a woman? No, there's no difference. And they talk about you don't need a pasuk for that. It says so you don't need a pasuk. That if the man or a woman did a vadei avera, just like a man brings a korban chatas, so too does a woman bring a korban chatas. How about a suffix? Suffix avera. What's the thing by suffix avera? Someone is not sure if he ate chaylev or dam. He doesn't know if he's chayiv chatas. He doesn't know if he's mechal Shabbos. He doesn't know if he's ba'al erva. He has a suffix, a legitimate suffix. Whatever it might be. So that's the din of an asham tolu. That's the din of a korban that's brought that you're not sure if he did an avera. So a man brings asham tolu if he has a suffix, if he did one of these averas, and so there's a woman. Mazacha maybe ala suffix, after keva maybe ala suffix, just like a man would bring a korban asham tolu if he has a suffix, if he did an avera that's chayiv chatas. So does a woman. Umazacha mimin shehu maybe ala vada, maybe ala suffix. After keva mimin shehi maybe ala vada, maybe ala suffix. This is really not so simple. Like if you talk about asham tolu, so there's no difference in man and a woman. Asham tolu is an asham, it's an el asham, it's a ram, and you bring it for a suffix, and a woman who has a suffix avera does the same thing as a man does. So this is a fancy footsteps over here. This is something that's not talking about any more asham tolu. Here we're talking about a woman who a feminine korban. It means a korban that only women bring, something that's feminine. Which korban does only a woman bring? So now we're talking about a korban yoledis. Okay, so that's just a fancy thing that's not so simple. We talked about a chata asham toli. Now all of a sudden we're talking about a woman, not a woman of asham toli, a woman that's bringing a chatas of a yoledis. Why does it mean that? So that's a little not so neat, but that's what it seems to mean over here. That's how the Rishonim explain. And by a man, the same type that he would bring for a vadai which is a chatas, he brings for a suffix, which is a asham tolu, which is not exactly true, because on a chatas, he brings a kisbo asira, a female goat or sheep, and by asham, he brings a zachar, he brings an ayil, he brings a ram. It's not the same animal. So what does it mean that a zachar from the same type that he brings down a vadai avera, he brings down a suffix avera? The same means an animal. It means an animal. An animal. Nekeva, if she would be talking about a yoledes, a woman who's bringing a carbon for yoledes, if it's a vadai, she brings a bird. On a suffix also she brings a bird. Okay, that's the halacha. And that's the chiddush over here, that the suffix that the woman has, the man is bringing a suffix, is talking about an asham tolu. A woman also has asham tolu, if she didn't have a. But I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about a woman who's bringing a chatas of a bala suffix. So, this now we're getting to the point. Ima zachar maybe korban v'nechal, after keva maybe a korban v'nechal. Just like the man, when he brings asham tolu, it's eaten. That's the halacha. Asham tolu is supposed to be eaten. Also, a woman who's going to bring a chatas of ala suffix is going to be eaten. No. So a woman, it could be a man also is bringing a chatas of bala suffix because there's zav also. So I don't know why it talks about a woman, but the point we want to get to is that a chatas of bala suffix, you might think that it's eaten. Amrit, turn the page. Amrit lo. No, that it's not eaten because even though by a man
it says af nekeva maybe korban nechal.
You might think so. It says over there e.
And we're done with the brisa.
No, we're in the brisa still. One line up in the bottom. One line up.
When e is the if.
E means if. Yeah, you might think if.
You might think.
A man, a zachar, when he brings a korban is eaten, you might think that in the cable also. No, amrit lo. The answer is to the question, no, it's not eaten. And you know why it's different? So the Gemara is very difficult now in the top line because it's going to talk about the asham tolu as if it's overriding some kind of an avera. End of the brisa. Even though by zachar you do eat that korban which is brought ala suffix, is because it's only a question of one avera. But a woman who's going to bring a chatas sofa bala suffix, if you're going to eat it, it's going to be overriding two averas. End of the brisa. Very, very vague and ambiguous brisa. The top line over here sounds like asham tolu. You're eating it because it's really a suffix if you're supposed to eat it or not. But you eat it because you're only one isser in question. The isser of Chulan Bazara. Maybe it's not a korban. If you're eating asham tolu, maybe it's not a korban because you didn't do an avera, and you eat it anyway. That's because you're only overriding one possible avera.
Is that the way we understand an asham tolu?
For sure not. That's the question. That asham tolu, that's what the asham tolu is. Asham tolu is a korban. You're supposed to bring on the suffix, not because maybe it's not a suffix avera. It's a suffix avera, but it's not a suffix korban. It's a vadai korban, not a suffix avera. So that's a problem. What the Gemara says, I think, that the reason that you're learning out that's asham tolu is eaten, and you want to know if the chatas sofa bala suffix is eaten. So we say he has one avera, he has two averas. A question of one avera, a question of two averas. Very hard. Asham tolu is not a question of an avera. The Torah says if you have a suffix, you're supposed to bring asham tolu, you're supposed to eat it. So that's difficult. But the Gemara does say anyway that when you want to learn out from there, we're not going to say chatas sofa bala suffix is eaten because it's a question of two averas. Ad kan the brisa. Which are the two averas? Which two averas does a bird have that the animal only had one suffix avera? Ma'ishnei yisurin. Doesn't it mean lav iser nevela b'chulin bazara? Doesn't it mean the two averas would mean that if it's not supposed to be this chatas sof, which is not a chatas sof, so there are two issues involved. One is that it's a suffix nevela. Why? Because if it's not really a korban, so it's malika, and malika's chulin is nevela, and this holds over here that shchita is Torah. If you before the more answered the kasha that Rabbi Yehuda holds that shchita sof is not Torah, so there's no problem of nevedim with the raisa. But here it doesn't say that. Here it says that there are two yisurim involved. What are the two yisurim? It must be one is chulin and bazara. That if it's not a korban, it's chulin bazara. The other issue is that if it's not a korban, it's malika. Malika of a bird is nevela. So this brisa and this brisa, who's talking? Rabbi Yehuda is the one who said it. So again, I said before that it's not so simple. Why are we interested in Rabbi Yehuda? But according to the gear, so that's what we're interested in is how could you say Rabbi Yehuda holds that these two things, these two concepts, that ein shchit open Torah and chulin bazar lav da'oraisa, this brisa seems to say that he holds that there's two problems. And the brisa wants to say that there's a problem in eating a chatas sofa bala suffix. It says because there are two averas involved. What are the two averas? Doesn't it mean avela and chulin bazara? So that's the Morris kasha. How could you say Rabbi Yehuda holds that these two things are drabanan? And the Gemara answers on the third line. He's answering. He's attacking the question. He's called a masked. He's attacking the question. What's the question? Maybe it means Rabbanans. It doesn't mean that it's the Raisa. Even though he said that you don't eat the Chatasof Abala Suffolk because there are two Isurim involved, it doesn't have to mean that it's Isurim the Raisa. It could mean that it's Isurim Rabbanan. That maybe the Raisa wouldn't be a problem because Chulun Ba'azor is Lav the Raisa and Ein Shchita Lopen Torah. Couldn't be that the Raisa was like that. But he just says that Midrabanan don't need it because there are two Isurim Midrabanan involved. So that was the parentheses, and we finished. So more or less, we finished Rish Lakish, and the last thing we have to say in order to answer Rish Lakish was that you're allowed to eat Malika Sa'of, even though it's an invention. There's no real. It's not really a Nazir. The kid is not really a Nazir. If he became Talmud, there's no din to bring a Chatas Sa'of. But we'll say that the Kohen could eat it because Ein Shchita Lopen Torah, so there's no real nevela on a bird. And Chulin Bazor is Lav Daraisa. And even though we want to bring a basic review to be that among the Yamar, and here you find that he holds that it's two Isurim, he also means it's two Isurim Midrabanan. So we finished the Machlokes of Yochanan and Rish Lakish. If this Nazirus of the father is making the son of the Nazir is the Raisa, Allah Moshe Messinai, or it's Midrabanan, or Chinuch, and you have to say all these terutzim in order to explain Rish Lakish Shishim. The Gemara continues and things that I found a Machlokes Tanam about this issue of Rabbi Yochanan and Rish Lakish. It seems that as Machlokes Tanam, because here it talks about until when does the father have the right to make his son a Nazir? Ad Maseh is a Brisa. Ad Maseh Madir es Beno Nazir. Till when can the father make his son a Nazir? Ad She'avish Seisaris, Divi Rebbe. Rabbi Yisrael Yudomer, Ad She'egir Lonis Tadon. Rebbe says still the bar mitzvah. The mitzvah means not 13 years old. It means 13 years old plus having two pubic hairs, and that's considered an adult. So Rabbi says till he's an adult. Till he's an adult, he's allowed, the father can make him a Nazir. Once he becomes an adult, then it's canceled. The Mishnah said over there that if he protests or takes a haircut, or the relatives protest, but there's another thing that stops it also. That means if he becomes an adult, if the son became an adult, so also it cancels the Nazirus because he only has a right to make himself son a Nazir as long as he's a Katan. Once he becomes an adult, he has two sorrows, so then he's not a Nazir. Rabbi Yisrael says it isn't dependent on two sorrows, it's dependent on Onas and Adon. Onas and Adon means a year before Bar Mitzvah, that the son that has enough seichel to make a neder. The owner means the time of Nedarim, that means a year before. By a girl, it starts from 11 to 12, by a boy, it's from 12 to 13. That year, the year before adulthood, also they have a ability to make a neder. And Rabbi Yisrael says that this Nazirus Rabbana that the father could make on the son is only till he's 12 years old. Once he's in the last year, the father doesn't have jurisdiction over this Nazirus. That's the Machlokes Tanom, and the Gemara thinks that has to do with our issue. The Gemara thinks that we could plug in the Machlokes of Yochanan and Rish Lakish. If it's the Raisa, Allah Moshe Messinai, or it's Chinuch D'Rabbanan, the Gemara thinks that I could plug it into this Machlokes. My love Tanoi, isn't this the Machlokes? The Rebbe Saba, Allah Ibn Nazir. Okay, Allah Ibn Nazir. Vafagav the Gilonis the Dorim. The Gemara thinks that it makes sense that the one who says that it's the Raisa, he's going to say that has to do with adulthood. As long as the Allah Moshe Messinai said that as long as he's a Katan, you can do it, and now when he's a Gadol, you can't. So it makes sense that Shita that says it depends on being an adult, 13 with two saras, that holds that it's Allah Moshe Messinai. And the base of Yehuda that says that is until Onis Nedorim. Why? That the whole thing is chinuch, and I didn't think it through. I don't know why the more think so. If anybody could help, since it's only chinuch, so then it makes sense. It should only go according to the jurisdiction of Nedorim. I'm not so sure why it has to be this way. The Gemara is going to right away say that it's possible to go both ways. Either way can hold either way. But first, the Gemara thinks that it's more mistaber that the Shita of Allah Moshe Messinai will say 13, and the Shita of the Rabbanan of Chinuch would have to do with Onas Nedarim until he's independent, that he's allowed to make his own Nedarim, so then the father can make the Nedarim for him. Does anybody understand? You think it makes sense? Why should the one?
Made a lot of sense.
Why should it be?
Now he's on his own from the dorm, so he can make him his own.
So there's no more chinuch. And if it be the Raisa, you can't say that. If it be the Raisa,
The rice is the rice.
the Raisa is the Raisa. And it could have been either way for the Raisa also, no? Could have said until it does have to do something about making a neder. Usually, a Nazir makes himself a Nazir, and here the father's making him a Nazir. So, would it be any more of a chiddush to say that the shir the Raisa of Allah Sinai is going to be honest the dorm? It's also everyone who has something to do with making a neder. And if you say it's Rabbanan,
It's the rice. You don't argue with Allah.
yeah, but it could be either way. Then it wouldn't have to be more mustaber. More says he's mustaber that is 13. He's mustaber that is honest the dorm.
So is for a cut.
So you say Mr. Bear that the Torah said a cut and it didn't say because he doesn't have jurisdiction under the dome. And if he said it has to do with chinuch, so then the chinuch is going to be till he's on his own.
As long as he doesn't have his own.
So you're really encouraging him like all kinds, like there must be before, all kinds in the dome, not only Nazirus, all kinds in the dome. So as long as he's under the father's jurisdiction, he doesn't have his own jurisdiction for the dome. So then the father was given jurisdiction to get him chinuch, and now he's ready in the bar chinuch. Now go ahead, you're your own. You can do this. That's the Gemara thought. The Gemara thought that this machlokes, Rabbi Yochanan Rish Lakish, is dependent on the machlokes Rebbe and Rabbi Yehuda. Until when could the father have jurisdiction over his father for this nizar?
Could it be a level of bardas? Like
Yeah, but what does
by
that
the
have
time
to-
that he has enough seichel to make the door?
Right? Why should it be entirely in that? Because the whole issue is making the door. The whole issue is making chinuch from the dorim. It's not snap will be it's something else about different chinuch. We wouldn't say it has to do with the das of the door. But here the issue is he's making himself a nazir because he has that, and the father was being mechanech him. Make good nedarim. Make a neder you're not going to smoke. Make a neder this. They make make good nedarim.
So he completed his.
He finished his educational period. Now take over. Now here you're your own man now. As far as the dom, you're your own man. The Gemara thinks that it would fit. That the one who says, Rabbi Yehuda says, this agav, this is Rabbi Yehuda. And if he said the question in the Gersos, maybe the Gemara is looking for Rabbi Yehuda, but he's the one who has like Lakish. Maybe it has to do with this point that the Gemara thought at least in Havamina that the Rabbi Yehuda is the one who holds like Lakish. Let's put that in parentheses as far as the Gersa before is that Rabbi Chanina, Rabbi Yehuda. Anyway, the Gemara says that it's not totally Zabazet. The Gemara is going to have both ways. The two greens over here are going to say both ways that it's not interdependent. Either one could hold either way. We're not going to label Rebbe that says 13 Dafka Allah Sinai. We're not going to label Dafka Rabbi Yehuda that says that's onus of the Dom Dafka Reish Lakish. You can say either way. Amri Lo. They said no, not necessarily is it dependent. The Kul Yam Allah Benazir. Could be everybody holds that it's Allah Sinai, even the one who says onus Nedarim. The machlokes is if this concept that the year before Bar Mitzvah he's independent to make the Dorim, they're arguing about that point. Is that the right to Rabbanan? The whole concept that a child's Nedarim in his last year, in 12 to 13, he could make a neder is only Rabbanan, but the rice he doesn't. But the rice he doesn't have ability to make a neder in the last year. And therefore, I said the Raisa, Dachia Rabbanan. What are we going to say? That even though on a Rabbanan level he could make the Dorim, but the Raisa is the father making his son a Nazir. We're not going to say that since the son is independent now, he could he's out of the father's rishus. We're not going to say that because on the Raisa level he's not out of the father's rishus. So therefore the father's jurisdiction to make him a Nazir goes until 13. Rabbi Yehuda holds that the father's ability the son's ability to make his own neder starts with the Raisa at age 12. So therefore, even though it's Allah Moshe Sinai, the Allah Moshe Sinai talks about until the son is independent as far as the dorm goes. Of course, you could say Allah Moshe Sinai is that's the way it is, but we could make sense out of it that Allah Moshe Sinai allows the father to make a neder for the son until the son is independent. When is the son independent? That's a machlokes. That this halacha that the son can make his own nedarim at the age 12, maybe it's only Rabbanan, but the Raisa he can't. So the father's jurisdiction goes until 13. If you hold that the son's nedarim at the age 12 is already the Raisa, so then the father's jurisdiction is going to stop at that point because the son is on his own now, under the Raisa level. So you could say everybody holds like Rabbi Yochanan that it's halacha Moshe Sinai, and still is machlokes if it goes until 12 or goes until 13. Same if you want, you can say it the other way also. Both cheetahs hold that it's only Rabbanan. So how come one holds you go until 13? And right, for a son to make a neder at the age 12 is only Rabbanan. Rabbi Savar, Rabbanan, they're both Rabbanan. So the jurisdiction that the Rabbanan gave to the father to do chinuch is until the son is on his own. The son is on his own at the age 12. So then the one said to the father, they don't have any more jurisdiction. What did I say? I made a mistake. Rabbi says that every Asi Chinuch D'Rabbanan, the Dachim Muflasam, I didn't say, well, I'll go back a second. Rabbi holds that Chinuch D'Rabbanan to be that the father can make a son a Nazir. And he's going to say until 13. Why? Because Dachim Muflasam D'Rabbanan, the concept that he can make a neder on his own is true. He's out of the father's jurisdiction at age 12 already. But here the Rabbanan wanted to give the father the right to make him a Nazir until 13. And the explanation in that the concept, the invention that the Rabbanan made that there should be a Nazir is the Rabbanan. And they also usually gave the son independence to make his own neder at age 12. But here they're going to say that the father has the jurisdiction until 13. Even though with Rabbanan, the son is already a man, he's independent, tells his father, I'm already independent. Of course he could protest. We said he could protest, but the father still has jurisdiction over him, even though with Rabbanan the son is independent at the age 12 as far as the dorm goes. But the Rabbanan wanted the father to be mechanech him even past that age. That's what it sounds like.
It sounds like it's a favorable thing.
The whole Gemara is saying that's a favorable. Yes, from the whole Gemara. Rabbi Yosef, Rabbi Yehuda, Damar, Achi, Gilon, this is Dorim, Tosavar, Lo, Asi, Chinuch, the Rabbanan, V'dach, Yofet, Samach, Leish, that they didn't make that the chinuch of making the son a Nazir should override the independence that the son has at age 12. And since at age 12 he's very independent, so then they didn't give the father the chinuch rights to make his son a Nazir after 12. What did the Gemara say? That it's not dependent. We did find the machlokes. We didn't talk about it till now. Here we found that surely it says only as long as he's a katan, but it's a machlokes. Till he's a katan means till 13 or till he's 12. Maybe once he's 12 already, the father can't do it anymore. Machlokes tanon. The Gemara thought it's dependent on machlokes if it's like Moshe Messinai or it's midrabanan chinuch, and the Gemara says at the end that it's not dependent. Either one can hold either way. We found these 7 questions on Rish Lakish and Amar Aleph. Here we thought they're also dependent of what the age is going to be, and the Gemara says it's not dependent. Either way, there's a question. There is a machlokes, but it's not dependent on the machlokes if it's the Rayas or the Rabbanan. And the last Gemara, now we forget about it.
So what is it dependent? It's Halacha Moshe Messinai, you know?
The Gemara said machlokes and Rish Lakish. And this question about being 13 or being 12 was not dependent on that machlokes. You could hold either way. You can hold as the Raisa and there's machlokes if it's going to be 13 or 12, and you can hold that as Rabbanan and there could be a machlokes if it's 13 or 12. The Gemara thought that it's dependent. The Gemara said it's not dependent. The last Gemara already is finished. The last Gemara now starts Leim Hani Tanoi Kani Tanoi. We're not anymore talking about the Gvachan Rish Lakish. That's over. We finished machlokes if the father has jurisdiction over his son to make him a Nazir is the Raisa Rabbanan, Lachum Mach Mesina Yochinuch, and we finished. But Agav, we just mentioned the machlokes, which is not dependent. The Gemara says not dependent. There's a machlokes if it's till age 12 or till age 13. And the Gemara is going to continue only with that. We're not talking anymore about the machlokes of Gvachan Rish Lakish.
The Hani tonight is.
Lema Hani Tanoi Kani Tanoi. Let us say
the one that we just had.
the Hani Tanoi is the one that we just had. Rabbi and Rabbi Yehuda will find another machlokes in another brisa.
But if you wait till 12, or if you wait till
Right. Is it over by 12 or over by 13?
Okay.
And that is going to be true. The Gemara says lema, but the Gemara is just going to bring down a brisa. It says such a machlokes.
Okay.
The Tanya, Ma'aser Rabbi Chanina.
Just before, what's the name? V'dachim what's the name?
Asi chinuch to Rabbanan v'dachim uflasam mamish. The chinuch to Rabbanan comes to override. Dachim means overrides. It overrides this ability, this independence that the son has at age 12 to make his own adorn.
Meaning ish that he becomes an adult.
Yeah, muflasam mamish means that he's not yet an ish. He's muflasam mamish. That's a concept called the last year. The last year before adulthood is called muflasam mamish.
Means it's age 30.
Yeah, Freeland door, when a person expresses himself, he's able to express himself to make a nether, that's called that he's a mafli. So now we're going on the machlokes about 12 or 13, and not dependent on the question about the rice of Rabbanan. The Gemara usually when it wants to say doesn't lema sounds like it's going to be knocked off, but the Gemara is not going to knock it off. We found another machlokes between Rabbi and Rabbi Yehuda about the age, the maximum age, and we're going to find the machlokes tanon. Ma'aser Rabbi Chanina, she'diro of Ben Nazir. Rabbi Chanina's father made him a Nazir. It really happened. Rabbi Chanina's father made him a Nazir. They revealed the Fei Rabbi Gamliel, and he brought him. The father brought the son to Rabbi Gamliel that he made him a Nazir. Rabbi Gamliel both laid them. Maybe they sours in one. Rabbi Gamliel was checking him if he was already an adult, because if he had shtei saras, then the father's Nazirus doesn't take effect. And he held this Tanakama quotes Rabbi Gamliel that the issue was that he have Shtei Saros, which means that that's the age where it's the cutoff point. Rabbi Yossi Omer laid them in Gialonis and Dormulav. Rabbi Yossi has a different version than the Tanakama. Tanakama says that Rabbi Gamliel was checking him if he has Shtei Saros. Rabbi Yossi says he was checking him to see if he's smart enough to understand if he's 12 years old. If he's 12 years old and has enough seichel to have honest and but he says you have to check him if he knows what he's talking about. Honest and you ask him who are you promising to. He has to have seichel. But anyway, Mamash has a machlokes.
He wasn't checking him for 2 hairs.
Right, he was checking him for honest and so Mamash if he was 12 plus whatever seichel he needed to be at age 12. But that's it. As far as we're concerned, we found a machlokes, and it's not only lema. The taka is hani tanai, the Tanakama and Rabbi Yossi are arguing in the machlokes between Rebbe and Rabbi Yehuda. The Rebbe said 13. That's what the Tanakama quotes Rabbi Gamliel, and Rabbi Yossi quotes Rabbi Gamliel about honest and dumb, like Rabbi Yossi, Rabbi Yehuda. So as far as this, we're really finished already. We found the machlokes Tanna. The Brisa continues. Very nice story. Amalo. So the boy spoke up. The boy, Rabbi Hanina, he spoke up and he said, Rabbi, I'll style about Cain. You don't have to bother checking me. What are you checking me? If my father's Nazirus is a Nazirus or not? If I'm obligated to the father's Nazirus, I'll just style became a katanani. I'm sorry. Not the style about Cain. If you go to Lani, I have no problem. What do you want to know? If I'll be protesting, then you have to know if I'm a god. You could have protested also. What happened? If what are you worried that is my father's Nazir was taking effect or not? If I'm a god, then it doesn't take effect. So you're not sure. Do I have to be a Nazir or not? If I don't have to be a Nazir because I'm already an adult, so I'm making myself a Nazir. Everything's good. I'm a Nazir Manavshach. Either my father made me a Nazir, and if he doesn't have jurisdiction because I'm already too old, so I'm making myself a Nazir. So don't check. No reason to check me. No reason to check me if I'm the honest Adorim or if I'm a Godo. It doesn't make a difference because I'm willing to accept Nazirus upon myself. If the boy doesn't want to be a Nazir now, so we talk about is the father's Nazirus and Nazirus or not? Even though he could protest. Maybe he can't protest once he accepted. When he can't, maybe he can't protest anymore. That's what he said before. What?
The question is, he was testing him to see if it's Mukhoy.
What do you mean? What is it?
Because the father made him a Nazir.
Or no?
If it's not Mukhoy.
Right. So what were you questioning that he could protest?
Because he can protest.
But so that's a good question. He could have said, "Don't bother, I'm protesting."
Right.
It could be that what we said before on Tosfos that once he didn't protest right away, he can't protest anymore.
Right.
So now he wanted to know if it's a good disease or not.
Right.
So the son said, the Rabbi spoke up and said, "No problem. You're not sure if I'm chayiv or not. I'll take it on anyway, and I can bring the karbanos. At the end of the day, I can bring karbanos. If my father's disease took effect, I'll bring the karbanos because of that. If not, I'm making myself a Nazir, and I'll bring karbanos because of that. If I'm a Godol, I'm my own man. I can be a Nazir, so I'll be a Nazir. Everything's fine. I'll bring the karbanos. Everything's going to be good." So
obviously he's saying that he has dots.
He says, "Manavshach, if I'm a katan, my father has jurisdiction. If I'm a Godol, I have jurisdiction, and I also want to be a Nazir. I'm in sync with my father. My father wants me to be a Nazir. I also want to be a Nazir. So if it's he has jurisdiction, I'll be a Nazir. If I have jurisdiction, I'll be a Nazir." So he was a smart boy, Rabbi Chanin, when he was a boy. Rabbi Gamliel kissed him on his head. I'm sure that he's going to become a Talmud Chacham to paskin halacha. And they said that's what happened. It didn't take long. It says it didn't take even a short time till he grew up and he became a big Talmud Chacham. He became Rabbi Chanin.
Where did the Brisa end?
By the dot over here, end of the line. Rabbi Yisrael.
Oh, Rabbi Yisrael.
Now the Gemara is going to ask a question. 5 lines from the bottom. Bishloma the Rabbi Yossi Rabbi Chanina to Amar Achi Gilonis and Adorim. Hainu the Kamar Im Katanani Eya Bishvalava Im Godlani Eya Bishvil Atzmi. The more is happy with Rabbi Yossi Rabbi Yehuda or Rabbi Yossi that holds that it's about honest Adorim. Ella the Rabbi Damar. Yeah. Ella, the Rebbe, the Omar, Ashiyavi Shtei Saras. There was a problem. If you hold that the Shia was Shtei Saras, then the Gemara has a problem, which is not so easy to understand what the problem was. Im Gadolani Bishvil Asmi. How Bishu say that word time? If I'm a Gadol, I want to make myself a Nazir. How can he make himself a Nazir? He's under the jurisdiction of his father. So the words don't make sense. because if he has to Sarah, so then he's on his own jurisdiction. What do the words mean? The words saying if the cut point is honest and Dorim, so it makes sense that he said Manavshach. If I'm underage, my father has jurisdiction. If I'm overage, I have jurisdiction. But if you say that the cut point is the adulthood, 13 with the state Saras, so what does it mean to say that if I'm above age, I'm in my own jurisdiction? You're not. You're in your father's jurisdiction. What do the words mean? The words don't seem to make any sense. Of course, if he's 13 and he has 2 Saras, his own jurisdiction. What does the Gemara mean? So the Mepharshim say that for some reason the Gemara thought and they say that's part of what the Gemara is going to say now.
Wait a minute, if he, what's the problem? If he had 2 hairs?
The Gemara says if the question was if he had 2 hairs or not, then that's the cutoff point. So what does it mean to say that if I'm a katan, so my father made me a Nazir? If I'm a gadol, then I'm making myself
If
a
he has
Nazir.
2 hairs, there's nothing to talk about.
Why is there nothing to talk about? Not.
Then that's the Meisim. Then he's a gadol.
The Gemara has difficulty. The Gemara says if even if he had 2 hairs, that the words seem to say that even if he's a gadol, he's still in the jurisdiction of his father. Those words don't make sense. If he's a gadol, he's not in the jurisdiction of his father.
Nobody knows if he has 2 hairs.
So yeah, but he said don't.
He
Of
wasn't
course,
checked yet.
but he said don't bother checking me because Manavshach, I'll make myself a Nazir.
If I have 2 hairs, I made myself. one.
Yeah.
And if I
don't,
have
so my
2
father
hairs-
made me a Nazir.
Yes, what's
What's the problem? So I don't know. The Gemara has a problem on the top line. The Gemara says, what do you mean that if you're 13 and 2 hairs, so you're making yourself a Nazir? You're in the jurisdiction of your father. Top line. You're in the jurisdiction of your father. So those words don't make sense. The way we're reading it. Because it's not true. He's standing in the rishus of his father.
Those words don't make sense.
So the Mepharshim explained that the Gemara is just explaining a simple thing. The Gemara thought, it says here in top of the Taisvis, that he means to say, if I'm Yigia Lonas Nedorim. When he said, if I'm big, he didn't, even if you say that the Gemara is going to say right away, that's not what it means. But the Gemara thought that even the Mandama that says that the cutoff point is 13 and 2 hairs, when he said, if I'm big, I'll make another on my own, it doesn't mean if I'm 13 with 2 hairs. It means if I pass the onus Nedorim.
Big enough to make it alone.
I'm big enough, I'm a big one. I'm big enough to make onus Nedorim. So I'll make myself a Nazir. The Gemara is saying no, that the point of Mandama says that 13, adulthood is the cutoff point. You're not an adult yet. And the Gemara is going to answer right away. It didn't mean that. It means if I'm an adult and decide that you go with the adulthood is the cutoff point. He meant to say if I'm an adult. That's a simple shot. That if you hold the cutoff point is honest Nedorim. So then he said, if I'm below age, which age? Honest Nedorim. Then my father. And if I'm above that age, then it's myself. And if you hold the cutoff point is adulthood, then he meant if I'm below age, means less than adulthood. If I'm above age, means yes, adulthood. And that's what the Gemara answers. And the words also are not clear. How do you see this answer in the words? But that's what they said that the words mean to answer. That according to this Mandama, that says that the cutoff point is adulthood, 13, bar mitzvah, with 2 hairs, that's what they meant to say. If I'm below that age, then my father made me. If I'm above that age, so then I'm making myself. Which is so far not simple. Everybody knows that even without the Gemara having explained it. And they don't say it's a lead up. The Rosh speaks out that the Gemara didn't have to say all this. It's really simple. Here's the Rosh. He says, I don't see the Rosh right now, but he says that it was simple. The Gemara is just leading up. Anyway, the last question is going to be the one more piece of Gemara on the second line till the Mishnah, and the Gemara is going to say that let's pick out the problem. The point, if you hold on, there's a difference between the Mandama that says honest Nedorim and the Mandama that says adulthood. 2 hairs, stay sours. The one who says honest Nedorim, the father has to have made him a Nazir before he became honest Nedorim, before he became 12 years old. But once the father made him the Nazir, just now he gets the honest Nedorim, doesn't stop, doesn't cancel the Nazirus. When the father made the neder, it was the father's jurisdiction, and he made a neder, and now it goes even after he's going to be honest Nedorim. But if you hold that cutoff point is by adulthood, even if the father made him a Nazir before he's bar mitzvah, but as soon as the bar mitzvah comes, it stops it. And the Gemara is going to ask a question that the boys of Chanina, the boys Eitzah, that I'll be a Nazir Manavshach, isn't so simple. What if he becomes bar mitzvah in the middle of the Nazirus?
We want to say that it's a cutoff point.
If the
Against what?
father made him a Nazir, and then in the middle, he became a mitzvah, so it's not gonna be a Nazirus, it gets canceled, and the Kabbanas are not supposed to be brought. This boy, Rabbi Chanina, the Charid means that he's gonna be the Kabbanas at the end of the Nazirus. He says, it's no problem, Rabbi Gamliel, my father made me a Nazir, you're not sure if it's a good Nazirus or not. I'll make a Nazir myself. Well, I'll make myself a Nazir, now I'm for sure a Nazir, and at the end of the 30 days, I can bring the Kabbanas. That's what they seem to say, and it makes sense, but there's one flaw, because what if he became bar mitzvah in the middle of the 30 days?
2 weeks before his bar mitzvah.
This happened, and
2 weeks before his bar mitzvah.
and by the bar mitzvah, he's in the middle of the Nazirus. He didn't finish the 30 days. So let's say if he was a gadol at the time, so then it's a good Nazirus. But if his father made him a Nazir, it gets canceled.
If it gets canceled.
So then he can't be the Kabbanas anymore. Like it says in the Mishnah, if it gets canceled Nazirus, you have to
Canceled,
you don't mean the Kabbanas. That's the Gemara's question.
That himself taking on the Nazirs. He's saying that I myself am making Nazirs, not my father.
So we're not sure. We're not sure. Maybe yes, maybe not. He says you're not sure if I'm a gadol or not. If I'm a katan, my father made me. If I'm a gadol, I made myself. But it's not so simple.
Is that I'm accepting Nazirs on myself?
Yes, but it doesn't help because his father, the 30 days, if he keeps the Nazirus 30 days and he becomes a Nazir, he becomes an adult in between, and he was not a gadol in the beginning, so then the father is the one who started and it didn't finish. So you can't bring Kabbalas now.
But his claim, doesn't it?
No, because then he did 30 days and his Nazirus only would start after he's a gadol. But if he was a katan, then I'm a Nazir because of my father. But it's not true. If you're a katan, then the Nazirus got canceled. The Gemara speaks it out. The Gemara is asking, and second line, if he had 2 saras before he started the Nazirus, so then he's his own Nazir. He said, I'm becoming a Nazir, and he goes on 30 days, he's a Nazir. That's good. Ula Basov, Kohen, you have to say, Ila Basov, Kohen, the Nazirus, the Avua. I'm sorry, Ula Basov, Kama, Kohen, ben Nazirus, the Avua. If he became Shtei Saras after he finished the 30 days, that was good because his father made him a Nazir, and he was a Nazir because of his father. But the kasha is, if he became a Shtei Saras in the middle of the 30 days, what's going to be? According to Beis Yehuda, we said that Ones L'Dom doesn't cancel the Nazirus. It just means the father only has jurisdiction to make him a Nazir until when it's still before Ones L'Dom. But when the Ones L'Dom comes, he can't do it anymore. But if he made him a Nazir before Ones L'Dom, it doesn't get canceled. It doesn't stop. It continues going. So that's good. Why are you going to do? According to Rebbe, that by the Shtei Saras, when he becomes Shtei Saras, it's canceled. Even if the father made him Nazir before, it doesn't carry through. It stops wherever he becomes a gadol. So how could Rabbi Chanina have said that I'll be anyway a Nazir, Manav Shach? The answer is, Amri, the Rebbe, Lakatakanta, the Yosef, the Levi, Yosef, the Avui. And according to Rebbe, he would have to become a Nazir 2 times. He has to keep 2 times. He has to keep 2 times 30 days. He'll keep 30 days, and then he'll keep his own 30 days after for sure that he's a gadol. And then Manav Shach, he did a good Nazirus. If the fathers went through, so then he was Yosef with the fathers, and he did the Nazirus. If not, then it's true that he won't be a Nazir until he did his own 30 days. But he did his own 30 days. After he did these 2 Nazirus, he'll bring one korban, one set of korbanos, and he says, Manav Shach, I was a Nazir.
What is Leka?
Leka, there's not. No. There is not. Leka Takanta, there's no Eitzah unless he's going to sit for his own and for his father's. He'll be a Nazir 2 times. He'll be a Nazir for 60 days.
When does he start the second one?
After he finishes the first one. But he doesn't bring any korbanos yet. He does the 2 sets of Nazirus, and Manav Shach, he was Yotzei, either his father's, and if his father's canceled out during the middle of the 30 days, he'll do another 30 days.
Which either way, he's doing.
Either way, he did 8
Nazirus.
Yeah, he only did 1 Nazirus. He doesn't know which one he did. There was the first 30 days because of his father or his own, or was the
canceled and it was the second. But he's going to have, as soon as he's adult, he does. It's going to be 130 days.
He'll do 60 days altogether. He'll do 60
Does
days.
he bring twice korbanos?
No, that's the whole point. That he's only going to be 1 time korbanos. Manav Shach, he was allowed to go
Whether
this 1
he
time.
needs the second one.
If there's stopping,
Oh, I see. It doesn't matter if it get canceled. Even if it didn't get canceled.
even if it didn't get canceled, so then he was a Nazir already, and he didn't become a Nazir a second time. If it was canceled, so
Oh, but
then
for sure he knows he's still a cotton when it's over.
if he was a katan when the first one was over, so then he was also in Nazir. His father made him a
I see.
Nazir.
If it was in the middle and we don't know.
So I'll do it again. I'll make myself a Nazir now.
Being a gadol because the first one got canceled. There's only 1 set.
Okay, that's your question, everybody. Thank you. Thank you. I'm sorry for going overtime to everybody that came on.
And so
We'll be back in a minute.
Rabbi Gamliel kissed him.